Welcome to another episode of Real BMX Racing, the podcast. Today's show is sponsored by 110% Nutrition, Answer BMX and BMX Connect, with a special shout out to Toby Henderson over at Send It BMX. Today's guest is retired USA BMX Men's Pro and USA BMX Olympic gold medal winner, Connor Fields. Connor, welcome to the show.
Where did BMX begin for you?
My mom found a flyer advertising the local BMX racetrack in 1999, about a million years ago. I was just a kid. I liked riding my bike. I got a flat tire on that bike. She took the bike to the bike shop to get it fixed, and there happened to be a stack of flyers there. And I love sharing that story because you never know where those advertising and the flyers and the marketing that attract, you never know where it's going to go and who might find it. Right. And I found BMX just from a local tracks flyer.
Wow. Well, so what was your first bike?
Well, the first time I went out to the track, I was riding a Haro dirt jumper. I think it was a Ryan Nyquist edition dirt jumper. And, I was 7 and that was just my bike, and I would jump off curbs and that was just the bike that I rode. And my parents said, okay, well, we're not going to buy him a BMX racing bike until we know that he really likes this. So they made me ride that for about 6 months before I got a Redline was my first BMX race bike.
Okay. Do you still have that bike?
No. It was a million years ago. I have no idea where it is, but I don't have it.
I was going to say my first race bike was a Robinson. So that's that one that I always say, the one that gets away from you.
It would be funny to see it and I just remember it being big, but I bet you look back, it's probably tiny,
Right, exactly. So I guess when you started riding, did it click right away for you to start getting out there and start winning, or was it something that was it rough, or did it come easy for you?
No, definitely not. I mean, like I said, my parents made me ride a dirt jumper for a long time, so I was losing races just because I had a 40-pound bike, and it was something I wasn't made for BMX. Right. And but I loved it. I kept wanting to go. My parents never made me go to the track, but every day or every weekend I would say, I really want to go. So they would take me. And then once I got on the Redline, the race bike, that was when it really clicked and I was able to win some races. And I think I breezed from, this is back in the NBL days, from rookie to novice, which is the equivalent to beginner to intermediate now. Breezed through pretty quickly. And then I even breezed through the intermediate pretty quickly as well. Once I got on the race bike.
When you finally made it to expert, did it make you because I know a lot of kids now, they struggle when they get into expert because it's like video games. They get out there and it's fun when everybody's winning, but the moment you start to lose, they lose interest in it.
Totally.
Did that happen to you?
Not too much right away, but I think that's a very important thing to talk about, and that's something I always mention to people at my clinics and stuff when they ask me. You got to remember, when you're going from intermediate to expert, you're going from the most experienced intermediate who's been riding the longest, who's won the most races, to now you're right back at the bottom of the pile when you get to the expert class. Everybody's won 20, 25 intermediate races. Everybody's been racing for a year or two. Some people longer. So you're going to have to work your way back up, and it's unrealistic to expect that it's going to happen right away. You just want to see progress and chip away at it and get closer. For me, my parents made me stay on flats until I was expert. Rules are a lot different now. Now, if you're under 13, you have to ride flats. Back in my day, anybody could ride flips. And in the intermediate class, I think 7 or 8 intermediate, however old I was, everybody else was clipped in. But my parents made me stay on flats, and it turned out to be great advice. I would, he always encouraged people, even before the flat rule changed, to stay on flats as long as you can. It builds fundamentals better. But once I turned to expert, then I was able to go to clips, but I had earned my way to expert on flats. So technically my fundamentals were a lot better. And it took me longer to work my way through intermediate because of that, because I was beating clipped in riders, that I was more prepared than the average at the time when I got to expert. But I faced what you're talking about more when I was like 12, 13. And it came pretty easy for me. Like 8, 9, 10, I was very good, top 3 nationally right away. But then I didn't grow, and everybody around me started to grow. And believe it or not, for my early teenage years, I was the small kid in the class. The riders that I was racing against, Corbin Sherrod, Jared Garcia, guys like that, were 6 inches taller than me and probably 30 pounds heavier than me at the time. So no matter how hard I trained, no matter how many gates I did, I was a 12-year-old going against 15-year-olds physically, and there's just nothing I could do. So I faced that when I got into my early teen years, was when I thought about giving up because I was having trouble.
So finally, when you peaked out, how tall did you get? How much weight did you put on?
I'm 5'11" 3/4. I never hit 6 feet. I'm just, every time I would get my physical every year, when I was 17, 18, 19, 20, I was like, come on, give me that 1/4 of an inch. Let me get to 6 feet, like my driver's license says 6 feet because you do it with shoes on, but when you're getting a physical, you got to take your shoes off, and I'm not quite there. But I hit that when I was like 17, but I was 160 pounds. So I was skinny. Whereas, throughout my career, I raced probably the first half of my career, I raced around 190, 195. Right. And then back half, I was closer to 200 because I put some muscle on. Right. So it just tells you how skinny I was when I was 17, 18.
Did you, being that you were a competitive rider when you were growing up, because me and my buddy were talking about this the other day, how many other racers do you think were in your school that you went to? Your junior high, your high school? How many do you think were actually racing BMX like you were?
1 or 2, but those were just my friends that I got into it. In middle school, I got a couple of my buddies into it. And then in high school, I got another buddy into it, freshman, sophomore year, before I took school sports a little more seriously. But nobody else was doing it. And then you got to remember, too, I was in high school, graduated in 2010. So 2008 was the first time BMX in the Olympics, and it kind of became a little more well-known and mainstream. And that was until I was a junior. So until then, and even after then, I wasn't really taken seriously. I had a football coach tell me I should play a real sport. That kind of thing was more the norm just because we weren't in the Olympics yet when I was coming up.
Right. So when it actually started to happen and you started to see the actual Olympic events popping up, knowing that BMX was going to be in it, how were you able to? Did you have to train differently for that, or you take the same training program you already had and approached it with that mentality?
Well, I think the training changed naturally just because I was going from a kid to a man. I was going from a part-time athlete because I was in school doing normal kid stuff to being a full-time professional athlete. And the training just looks different when you're 15 years old in high school than it does when you're 22 years old and you're training for the Olympics. So there's the natural change there. But as far as the only training that really changes if you want to make it to the Olympics is you're more supercross focused, and your training is going to be built more around the 8-meter ramps and the berm jumps and the big tracks versus the indoor arenas, flat hill, that kind of stuff. You have to change the way that you train. And even now you see today, many riders, I'll just use, Romain Mailloux as an example, have pretty much abandoned anything traditional track BMX, and they only do supercross stuff because their only focus is the World Cups and the Olympics. Whereas in America, we have the challenge where if you want to win a USA BMX title and you want to earn a living and be a professional, you have to be able to do it all, because half of the races are on big hill, half are on small hill. The Grands is the most traditional track you can get. But a lot of the people around the world, and this is why you've seen people move here less and less and less in the last decade, have abandoned that and are just strictly focused on Olympic style racing because you have to be so specialized now.
Okay. If BMX wasn't something that you wouldn't have gotten into, what do you think you'd be doing?
I don't know. It's fun to think about that, right? The butterfly effect and me finding that flyer and how it changed everything for myself and my family. I do think I'm very blessed to find. It's not very common. I don't mean this in an arrogant way, but it's not very common to be the best in the world at something. Like it's rare, right? And I'm so blessed that I happened to find out what I was naturally talented at to be able to do that. I always think about, there might be like the world's greatest quarterback, but they're growing up in Russia and they don't play football in Russia. Or the world's greatest ice hockey player might be from Brazil, but they don't play ice hockey in Brazil, right?
Right.
I just think I'm so lucky that I found it. But it is fun to go down that pathway. I was always hyper competitive. I was always athletic. I loved all sports. I'm still competitive and I still enjoy doing anything that I can sport-wise. So I like to think that whatever I would have done, probably football, I would have been decent at. I don't think I would have been, I guess I would have had to have been like a Super Bowl winning quarterback to be the equivalent of what I was at BMX racing. I don't know if I could have done that, but maybe I could have gone to college and been like a strong safety or something in college.
Okay.
Just hit
So
somebody.
what is your I saw you I think some NFL games. What's your favorite team? Who's your favorite?
Talk about it. So I grew up in Vegas. I'm a Vegas guy. So whatever team moved to Vegas, I had no choice. I was going to have to be a fan, right?
Right.
The Raiders are very hard to root for. They easy to root for, but they're my hometown team, so I've got to do it.
Yeah. I mean, if it makes you feel any better, my hometown team would be the 49ers growing up in California. So I've had the bad for many years and just now starting to look pretty decent the last couple of seasons.
Yeah. But, with that being said, at least you guys have some hope. We have no hope and haven't had hope in a long time. I have a theory. If Mark Davis is willing to walk out of the house with that haircut every day, we're not going to be successful, because how you do one thing is how you do all things. And if you're willing to look like that, you don't take things seriously.
That's true. That's definitely true. What is your favorite? Okay, so what is your favorite meal to eat going into National Weekend?
I would always try to eat healthy. I wasn't like super crazy on diet. Like I wouldn't measure food or anything like that, but just basics. I would try to avoid processed foods, too much sugar, just too much garbage, too much crap. I liked to carb load a little bit, whether it was pasta or rice or whatever. I would really try to eat a lot of that. And then it would be more so avoiding things as we went into race weekend. I would start avoiding too much sugar, too much processed food, too much red meat, because it's harder to digest. I love a steak, but I wasn't going to eat a big ribeye the night before a race. It would be more just eating things that are easy to digest. And I had a nutritionist explain it to me one time. It's like your body only has so much energy. And if it has to divert energy to your digestive system to break down foods that are difficult to break down, it has to take that energy from somewhere else. And so when it was explained to me like that, it really made sense. Like, I'm going to make it as easy on my body to digest as possible. So I'd do straight bodybuilder, rice, chicken, vegetables, avocado, and like make it wasn't tasty. It wasn't pretty, but it was easy for my body so that my body could focus on the task at hand, which was, pedaling a bicycle and not cramping.
Yeah, I would say like putting gas in the car.
Yep. And then, no matter what, win or lose, Sunday night though, it was in and out time, or whatever cheat meal I wanted. But it was to me to function instead of to eat for food, for taste.
Being that you've ridden your bike all around the world, what was your favorite? Was your favorite track?
So hard to pick just one. There's a couple that always come to mind immediately. I really liked the old Sarasota. It's like similar now. They've like changed a little bit of it. But the Sarasota from like 2018, 19 was really, really great. I loved that one. I really liked the Rio track, and I'm not just saying that because I won. I liked it before. I liked the track. We had a World Cup in Sweden that I really liked. I think those are the three that have always come to mind for me. I like the track that was challenging, but it wasn't over the top. Like, sometimes the track would be so difficult that you couldn't really race because you were thinking about just getting through the track. But then other times the track was so easy that there was no separation. And, having a deeper bag of skills didn't reward you at all because everybody could do everything. So I like those mid-range tracks where having a little extra could help you without you feeling like you're going to die the whole time.
Okay, what is your favorite movie?
Oof, that's so hard. I actually had this discussion over the weekend with somebody. Do I have to pick just one?
You can say as many as you like.
The ones that always come to mind that we were talking about, and like it's different categories. So like comedy was like Step Brothers and Talladega Nights. And then like action movie, Gladiator or Training Day. Like those two, so good. And then, you know, the other one that I always love, and like if it's on, I'm watching it, is Wedding Crashers. Like that's just a classic movie.
Definitely.
And it's so hard to pick just one because like they're so different. How do you compare Gladiator to Talladega Nights? You know what I mean?
Right. I can imagine. It's one of those things where when it's on TV, you're just like, you know, you're just gonna watch it. You just know
100%.
you're just gonna watch it.
100%.
So the crazy thing is, as I talk to a lot of athletes, when I ask them that question, they don't seem to have like time to watch a movie. They go blank.
What athletes are you talking to?
I don't want to drop names, but like I mean, I talked to several of them, and when I ask them that question, it's like they don't have a life outside of BMX. And
well, okay, I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to call BS right there because you know you can't train for 15 hours a day, and you know you're not flying around the country and the world of races and have hours to kill on airplanes. Now, I don't really think that you know. It's very common for professional BMXers to be, you know, building a business on the side, doing research projects, or doing something that keeps them so busy that they don't have time to watch a movie. So I'm just going to call it complete BS. They're watching stuff, or they just I don't know, stare at the wall. Because from experience, you can't train all day.
Okay, true. So, I mean, you seem pretty honest about everything. How do you, what did you think about the movie Rad?
It's a classic. I mean, how do you not love it? I mean, it's that for that time period, for that era. You know, I wasn't alive, but it's cool for me to look at it and like kind of smile. It's a little cheesy, of course, but like the whole thing is awesome, and it's just cool to see, you know, a movie that has just been so, I guess, like makes BMX famous. Like I've had so many people in all walks of life that know nothing about BMX racing, just know Rad, and they're like, "Oh, I remember that movie Rad," and I think that's really great.
Yeah, no doubt. The what's your favorite dessert?
Oh, donuts. I mean, I have a big sweet tooth. I like it all, but if I had to pick one, donuts.
Okay. What's your most? I guess, did you ever change your gears a lot? What did you usually run?
Do you want me to list every gear that I want to race on?
I mean, I was just gonna say, did you have like, so you didn't have just the common gear? You switch them out by track?
From the bottom up. I won races on 41-15, 43-16, 44-16, 45-16, 46-17, 47-17, 49-18, 50-18. All of those won races. Most common was and I kind of over the years tweaked and got it down to where on a big hill, on a supercross hill, I'd run a 47-17, and on a small hill, I would run a 49-18 or a 44-16, depending on how small the hill was. Because when you say small hill, the Grand's dirt is a lot different than like small hill and Rock Hill or small hill and Oldsmar, right? Like that's a lot larger of a hill. But those are kind of the normal ones. And then it also would come down to like where I was at in training. Like if I'm coming off of an injury, I might not be ready to push such a hard gear yet. But if I'm in great shape and I've had an extended period of time of training, you can push a harder gear. And then you can get into crank length too. You know, we're going to be splitting hairs because, you know, a 45-16 on 180s, you know, is a little bit different than a 45-16 on 175s. So, you know, there's different things to look at with that.
Okay. Well, when you're racing, how many laps do you think it takes you to get used to a track that you haven't been on?
It would depend on the track. Like your run-of-the-mill standard indoor USA BMX track, you know, that they build all the time, 2. You know, I rode them for years, right? You could look at them and like the tracks that are very standard, like gate, step up, double, berm, double roller, double berm, like your most standard track, you could look at it and already pretty much have it dialed in. A more difficult track, a more technical track, something like the USC BMX headquarters in Tulsa or Rock Hill or something like that, you need an hour. You need some time to really dial it in. And there's a difference between being able to like make it around the track and like go full gas. I could make it around the track, not now, I'm old now, but like at my peak, like I could make it around the track probably 5 minutes or less. But there's a difference between doing that and like attacking it and going fast and like doing it like you're racing.
Right. Okay. Who would you say was your nemesis throughout your career?
The first half of my career, well, I guess amateur would have been Corbin. We were the same age, grew up. We would have been rivals as amateurs. First half of my pro career was Sam. And then after Sam's injury, me and Joris battled the back half of the career. I mean, the last 9 USA BMX titles were me and Joris. So, and then that was 2014 was the last time somebody that wasn't us did it. So it was always me and Joris that were going after it. And we were tied at 3 apiece when I got hurt. So we were very even. And it was a lot of fun racing him.
Have you ever thought about doing the veterans class?
Nope. I have no interest. I did everything that I wanted to do from a competitive standpoint. I raced at the highest level. I won everything at the highest level. So the idea of going and like training and racing, because I wouldn't do it like and not take it seriously, because that's just not me. So the idea of taking risk and training and doing all of that to race at a lower level than where I was racing my whole career, it doesn't get me excited. Like, I'll ride and I'll go have fun, but I just have no desire personally to compete. Maybe one day I'll wake up and I'll decide, hey, I want to go and line up and get the competitive juices flowing. But as of today, I feel like I got all of my competitive juices out, and I'm totally cool to just go and manual some rhythm sections and do some turn bars.
Okay. So now that racing is over, what's a typical day like for you, man?
I'm doing so much. It's they're all different. So the thing that's been keeping me the most busy, I host a TV show now for PBS. We just finished filming the 2nd season of it. It actually premieres next week. It's called Outdoor Nevada. We go all around the state and we highlight different hiking, mountain biking, fishing, parks, just different stuff around the state of Nevada, which has been a blast, and it's been a fun new challenge. I've always been behind the camera, or in front of the camera, excuse me. I've always been in front of the camera, but I'm the one getting interviewed. Now it's the other way. Now I'm interviewing somebody else about their expertise, about their passion. So I'm having to learn that side of it. I still work with USA BMX. I do a lot of stuff with them. So that keeps me pretty busy. I was just in Tulsa last week for some meetings, as well as the USA BMX Foundation fundraiser. I do some broadcasting. I was doing the NBC stuff this past summer, and then I did some NBC stuff at Supercross when it was in Vegas. So yeah, I mean, I'm staying busy doing all sorts of different stuff. Do some public speaking now at different events. And it's funny when you go do those events, like, people think BMX is the coolest thing ever. And, there's a lot of track and field and swimming athletes that do public speaking, and no disrespect to those sports. They're amazing athletes, but they don't have quite that cool factor, that a BMXer does, which is fun.
Right. Now, being that you stepped into that world, do you still get nervous? Or since public speaking is kind of like your thing, it's just like putting on your shoes and you can just wake up and do it?
No, I get nervous, and tying back into BMX, there was never a race that I did that I wasn't nervous, and no matter how many I did, and that is just because I cared. People always say, and you always hear from older athletes, like, the day that you stop getting nervous is the day it's done, because you don't care anymore. And I wasn't nervous about what place I'm going to get, or nervous that my sponsor was going to fire me or whatever. It was just because I did all this work for this event and I wanted the work to pay off, right? So I get nervous before I film an episode of the show, or I see the episode of the show, or I get nervous before speaking engagement or whatever it might be, because I want to do a good job. I mean, I had so
Right.
much butterflies commentating the Olympics this past summer, not because I was competing, but because I was the voice of BMX racing for the United States. Like, I wanted to do a good job. I cared. So
Right.
of course I still get nervous, but I'm able to use a lot of the techniques and things that I learned through racing to calm those nerves, to focus on what I can control, to focus on the important things, and to not let those overpower just doing your job and doing what you're supposed to do.
Right. Okay. Okay. Did out of all the injuries that you had, how did you come back from them mentally? Was there one where it just kind of was a little harder to get over the hurdle to come back?
Yeah, I mean, the one that was really hard for me to come back from was in 2018. It was my first head injury, and I had a concussion at the Oldsmar race during national championships, and I had a seizure on the track. And I'd seen the video of it, and so like waking up in an ambulance and seeing yourself having a seizure, it took me a solid year to like come back from that. Like, I was racing again after like 3 months, but it took me like a solid year before I felt comfortable again. I was scared because a broken bone will heal, a ligament will heal, but you only get one head. And, so when I had my big head injury, that's why it was like a no pun intended, but a no brainer that I was going to not do this again, because like that was my second major head injury. And with everything we've learned now about concussions and CTE, I was like, I'm not touching this. So I think the first head injury was definitely the hardest one to come back from. Even though physically I was okay, it was a mental hurdle to do that. Watching yourself have a seizure doesn't sit well with you.
Yeah. So would you say that you're back to being 100 mentally?
Yeah, no, I'm fine now. I mean, I don't think I'd be 100 if I was on the top of the Supercross hill between, Cam Wood and Isaac or something. That wouldn't make me feel good. But as far as like cognitively and function and what can I do, yes, I'm either just as smart or just as dumb as I was before, however you want to look at it.
Right. I was going to ask you too, because I remember watching your interview and they were telling you don't do anything that's life changing after the injury. Don't go buy like a sports car or a house or something like that. Now that your head is back to where it is, did you do any of those things?
No, they just when your head's not 100%, they don't want you to make decisions that you might regret down the road. And so they say, don't quit, don't break up with your girlfriend, don't, I'll do like some rash things while you're not 100%.
Right.
Wait until you're, back healthy to do anything. But no, I made one bad financial decision in my entire career, and it was buying a car. And it was nothing crazy. It wasn't a sports car or anything, but it was a used Audi. And I made a little bit of money, and I had a perfectly good car, and I bought a used Audi. And looking back, I'm like, what was I doing? I had a perfectly functional car before that. I should have saved that money or invested it instead of just trying to look cool. But I've always been very conservative with my decision making.
Okay. As I guess as a sport, have you ever thought about like writing your own book?
I have actually. I actually have a draft of a BMX for beginners book that I've toyed with doing before, with the target market being somebody who showed up at the track for the first time and is overwhelmed and has no idea what's going on. And it just being like a guidebook of like kind of some of your basic questions, such as, should I wear pads? Should I buy a new bike and upgrade a new bike? Like, do I need to be on a team? What is the difference between a state race and a Gold Cup race? Like some of those basic things that, you got to learn, because when you go to the track for the first time, a lot of your experience is dictated by the first few people you meet. And if they're good people and they're welcoming and they give you good advice, you can have a great experience with the sport. But if you go out there and you run into like some swindlers that want to, sell you to come, hey, pay $1,000 and you could be on my team, and you get some of those situations, it could be negative. So I've actually got a draft of that book. But I've also toyed with, writing like a more long version of a book. I have I do have an interesting story. I'm the only Olympic athlete who's won the Olympics and almost died at the Olympics. So I've got the whole range, and I think that could apply. Some of the lessons I've learned could apply to anybody in any walk of life. So maybe one day.
Okay. What's your favorite? Is football your favorite sport to watch, or
Supercross, motocross? I guess if I had to pick.
Okay.
And then probably ice hockey, second one, Vegas Golden Knights. Now that's a team. That's a good team, the Vegas Golden Knights.
I believe they were in the Stanley Cup first year.
They were in the finals first year, and then they won last year, 2 years ago. 2 years ago. So
they actually won the Stanley Cup.
Yep, 2023. They were the champs.
Wow. Okay, I didn't know that.
Yep.
So, being that you grew up out there, did you ever get a taste of the casino life? Did you get that every?
On my 21st birthday, I lost $200 on the craps table in about 5 minutes, and that was it for my gambling career.
Right.
When you live here, it's no different than if you live in New York City, you don't go hang out in Times Square. If you live in LA, you don't go to the Hollywood sign, right? Like for me, the Strip is just this place that tourists come. And when I have friends that come visit, they want to see it. Or if somebody's birthday is going on, they want to have a fancy dinner, we go down there. But, for 95% of the year, I don't go near it. I try to avoid it.
Right.
And I'm not a big gambler. Vegas wasn't built on a winner, so I've learned that living here. So, not a big gambler in any shape. Although I did bet on the Olympics for BMX racing because it is one of the only things that we can bet on.
Oh, okay. I grew up in Orange County, California, so my track was the Orange Y growing up, which is definitely ahead of your time, but it was definitely a known track growing up. The how many tracks do they have out there where you were within driving range?
Growing up, it was 2. Now there's 4. So growing up, we had Boulder BMX and Nellis BMX, and then in 2007, Ed Fountain Park BMX opened, and then in 2015, Whitney Mesa BMX opened. So now there's 4 tracks within about 40 minutes here.
Oh, nice.
It's a great scene.
Okay. Have you ever thought about actually just maybe doing like a coaching job when this is all settled down and you've already, exhausted all your out there in the world of PBS and all the other things that you're doing? You ever thought about coming back and just like coaching?
I mean, I never stopped. I did a clinic last week. I'm doing another one next week. So I'm still, doing, I probably did, I'd say 20 clinics this year. So I'm still doing that, as well as last 3 years, I coached Joey Lito, as well as I've helped some other athletes out. I mean, Isaac, I don't ride his training, but I mentor and have mentored Isaac for 8 years now. So I'm always coaching and giving back. But at the moment, I'm enjoying doing other things because my life for so long was just BMX that I like that BMX is still a part of my life now. But it's not everything. I'm seeing what else is out there. But so what you're saying, maybe one day it'll be more of a full-time thing and I'll come back. But no matter what I do, I don't think I'll ever stop doing something in the BMX world.
Okay. I'm a big believer of the old school as far as signature series, and I saw that you have your signature series Connor Field grips.
Yep.
What makes your grips different than the next pair?
They're super unique. There's a lot of different things to them. So the size of them, they're a little bit thicker. And I did that because the smaller grips would make my forearms cramp. So I got the thicker one, and a lot of riders have told me that they're the only grips that they can ride that don't make their forearms sore. So Cam Wood, Isaac Kennedy, Cam Larson, Jeremy Smith, Drew Polk, all run the grip. That's 5 of the top 6 pro guys in men's pro are running the grip for that reason, because they don't hurt your hands as much. As well as there is actual carbon fiber in the grip, which is cool. Just looks really sleek. It looks really high end. And then the other thing that I did that makes them different is I added some little finger inlets. That way the grips are customizable. Most grips you put on and they're the same no matter how you rotate them. My grips have 3 inlets that you put wherever you want, however you like it. So for me, I like them underneath my fingertips so I could have a little more to grab when I would go. But when I ride them on my mountain bike, I have them under the palm of my hand, so it's a little bit softer and it gives me some spring when I'm riding.
Right.
Or you can rotate them all the way to where they are kind of here and they're not anywhere that you don't feel them at all, and the grip feels 100% the same all the way around. So it's cool for me when I go around and I look at how different riders have them, because everybody can customize them to what works best for them. And the reason I did that was because when I look at like mountain biking or motocross, the bikes are so customized to the rider. Every rider has it specifically set up to them. BMX bikes, people basically go, here you go. And the only thing you can do is figure out what angle you want your bars at. And that's about it. So I wanted to add something else that you could customize and that it would be your setting for how you like your grips.
Okay. Nice. The where's the weirdest place that you've been recognized?
I'm gonna be honest, like, you don't really get recognized outside of BMX races or tracks, just because. I mean, if it's like Grand's weekend or whatever in Tulsa, you might get recognized at the Outback Steakhouse. But it's not like, even in my hometown, it's not like I walk around and get recognized, because when you're competing, you have a helmet on, so people don't always know what your face looks like. Nothing comes to mind as far as weird places. Just standard restaurants, Starbucks, that kind of thing.
Okay. I figured probably a lot of airports, but that's just.
But like what I'm saying, like if there's a BMX race, right? Like at Sunday at 5 p.m.
where you're regular.
At the Charlotte Airport Sunday at 5 p.m. after Rock Hill, there's nothing but BMXers in there.
Right. What's the weirdest thing you've autographed?
Babies.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I mean, shoes. I mean, I've done some random ones. People's homework, but like nothing to do with me. Like it wasn't a report. It was like math homework, which is all they had. All sorts of stuff. Like just people just like whatever they happen to have on them.
Right.
Usually, it's kind of what ends up going on. But these days, it's a lot of phones. Like a lot of the kids want you to sign the back of their phone.
Okay. What is if you were to build your team of top 5 riders, who would they be?
Men and women, women.
Men. We'll start with men.
Am I doing it for? See, there's so many questions. Am I doing this for the Grands, or am I doing this for the next 5 years?
Since the sport started.
For what?
Since the sport started.
Oh, my goats. My goats.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think you got to split it by era, because I don't think it's possible to compare Gary Ellis and Joris Daudet. You just can't.
Right.
You know, when you look at the statistics of, John Purse made 300 pro mains. There's only 18 pro races a year now. You'd have to make every single main for 15 years to even touch that record. So, like, it's not comparable. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, they just had more events. They didn't have World Cups. They didn't have Olympic. Like, it was just different.
Right.
I can't speak for anything pre-90s because I don't know, right? So I'm going to insult some people here that are going to say that I left off Pistol Pete or whoever, but I don't know them. So I'm just going to go 90s forward, all right?
Okay.
Gary Ellis, 100%. Joris Daudet, you got to include 100%. Mara Strombergs, I think you have to put on that list. Kyle Bennett, I think you have to put on that list. The fifth one's tough. I'll give you the reason. I like to defend my picks. Gary Ellis had 4 titles. He won the most races in history. He's an easy guy to put on there. Joris is the winningest. In my opinion, statistically, he's the greatest ever because he was at the top for 13 years. He's won everything it's possible to win. I think he has like 9 medals at the Worlds, 6 USA BMX titles, Olympic gold medal now. Like, he's done it all. You can't argue it. Maris, he's won everything there is to win, 2 world championships, 2 Olympic gold medals, NBL title, ABA title. He's done it all. European title, he's done it all. Kyle Bennett, 3 world titles, couple NBL titles, and he changed the game, which I think you have to give some points for changing game. I I don't know how you do the fifth one, right? Because there's so many people you can make an argument for. Do you say, like Bubba Harris, right? So here's my theory on Bubba. Bubba had 4 incredible years, but he got hurt. So we don't really know what he could have done because from 03 to 07, he was insane. He was unbelievable in those years. He's back-to-back title winner. But then he got hurt and really didn't do much after that, right? So then you can make the same argument for Sam. Like, he did so much in a short window. But then you compare them, to somebody like Joris, who won for 13 years. And there's a lot of the what ifs, and you know what I'm saying? And then and, you could even throw me in that mix to an extent, right? Like, I did a lot and I got hurt. I was 27 and I wasn't done, like you could throw me in that pile with them. Christophe Levesque, right? But Christophe was a little bit like Bubba, where he had a few years that were unbelievable, but it wasn't over a long period of time. It's just so hard to go. And then you go Randy Stumphauser, who's a quieter name, and he's not thrown in these mixes as much, but he went for 15 years and he was a top 3 pro for 15 years. So how do you start ranking that longevity? So I love this conversation. I could go all day. You could even throw Nick Kimmin. You could throw Nick Kimmin in the mix because Nick's won everything there is to win except USA BMX, but he's not American and he never lived in America. So, where do we rank the USA BMX title compared to the World Cup title? Right. Or how much weight does the Olympic gold medal hold? How many titles is it worth? Is it 1 gold medal is worth 3 USA BMX titles? You know what I mean? Like, there's so many. You could go round and round, but I think there's 4 that nobody would have a problem with you saying. And that would be Gary, Kyle, Joris. Who's my 4th?
Bubba.
But we'll go.
Well, I was going to say, so okay, your knowledge and of all these riders and what they've done. How is it that you did you study them? How did you know all this stuff? Like, because it's not like you can go to you can pick up a book and read the baseball stats, basketball stats, football stats. There's not really a USA BMX stat book for you to know these things without actually seeing it or going back to study each person. How did you manage to get all that information about all of them? You just
student of the game. From the time I was a kid, I read every magazine. I watched every DVD. I watched every race. Those were the riders I wanted to be at one point. So I studied them. I studied their technique. I learned them. And then I had so much love for the sport that I would watch everything, know everybody's tendencies, know everybody's history. And it just, for whatever reason, it stuck with me and I remembered it. And so I could literally tell you who won the Grands every year back to 2000 in Elite. But I couldn't tell you what I had for dinner last night. You know what I mean? For whatever reason, that stuff just stuck with me. And I just came from how much I studied it, I believe.
Well, I was going to say, so did you ever approach that with studying your competition? Or did you look and watch their footage? I always say game day footage. You always go back and you watch to see how they play, how the riders ride. Did you ever look at other riders the same way, or you just I'm going to do my thing and come out and just try do my best and take it from that?
It's no different than any other sport. It's always a copycat league. They say the NFL is a copycat league, right? If this one team has this one play that's working really well, why wouldn't you try to copy it? So if all of a sudden somebody's I'll give you an example. Sam Willoughby started landing pedaling in 2008, 2009. He would land already pedaling instead of land, pump, start pedaling on first jumps, specifically at Supercross races. And he was the only one doing it. And he was just motoring away from everybody else when he was doing it. So I watched that. I noticed that. I saw it was a good skill that was benefiting him. So I copied it. I tried to learn it. And then I learned it. And then eventually everybody did the same thing. And it's just little things like that as you pick up on for your other riders. And then most of the guys, I raced pro from 2010 till 2021. So that's 11 years. So I raced somebody like Joris, literally 11 years. I could tell you exactly what he's going to do before he does it because I followed him around the track that many times.
Right.
Even when it came down to gate pick, I could tell you that, like, Corbin's going to pick gate 4 or gate 1 99% of the time when he has the choice, right? Like, if he's a later pick and he doesn't have a choice, he doesn't have a choice. But those are his 2 favorite gates. And you just get that from riding with people and racing with people for that long.
Okay. Are you going to be at Grands next month?
Yep, I'll be at the Grands and doing my fundraiser for the USA BMX Foundation, as we've done the last few years. And I'll be hanging out.
Okay. Well, I guess since your career is over, the one question I usually always ask towards the end is, now that it's all said and done, I guess, what do you want to be remembered for in this sport?
On the track, I want to be remembered as somebody who gave it freaking everything every time. And then off the track, I want to be remembered as somebody who always did what they could do to give back and to help push the sport further and raise the level and raise the total profile of the sport as best as possible.
Okay. And what's the one advice you would give your younger self if you could?
Don't be in such a hurry to grow up. And I think that's all old people say to all young people, and no young people here. But when you're young, you just want to be old, and then when you're old, you just want to be young. And I got no problem with where my life's at now, but there's some things that I look back, man, I should have appreciated that a little more. Or, those are some really amazing times, and I didn't realize what great times those were,
When you won the gold medal, how long did you party for?
I guess I can say it now. It's past the statute of limitations. I didn't party or drink when I was in Brazil. I wanted to be as present and enjoy it as much as I possibly could while I was there. So I didn't do anything. Plus, I knew I lived in Vegas. I was like, there'll be plenty of time to party. So I didn't party at all, or I stayed sober in Brazil. But when I got home, I think it was like 20 plus days in a row.
Ooh.
But it wasn't all like clubs every night. Like sometimes It was literally just like my favorite party of all was the night I got back. Me and like 8 of my friends, my buddies I grew up with that I've known forever. We went to the local bar that we used to sneak into with our fake IDs. And it was like a Wednesday night. We had the place to ourselves, and we were just the boys, just drinking beers, hanging out, and they were playing "We Are the Champions" on the jukebox, and I had the medal, and we were just taking shots with the medal and passing the medal down and taking shot, passing the medal down, taking shots. And, it wasn't always like these big crazy things. Sometimes it was little stuff like that, but it was a good time.
Okay. One thing I've always wondered too is when they give you the medal on the stand, is that like the actual medal, or is that just something for TV?
Nope, that's the actual medal. They give it to you, and then, from that moment on, you got to know exactly where it is at all times.
Okay. So where's it at now?
It's just upstairs. I have a little display with a bunch of my stuff from over the years, and it's right next to my first trophy I ever won.
Okay. Oh, that's pretty cool.
1999, cool. 4th place.
Well, so being that you won so much, I guess the one age I was going to ask is, when did you go from trophies to stamps?
This is ancient history now, like 20 years ago. I think I collected trophies for a long time until I was maybe a young teen, like 13, 14.
Okay.
And then I switched to stamps. But then I remember, like, if it was a really meaningful event, I would get a trophy. Okay. Like I remember the first time I beat Corbin in like 3 years, I got a trophy because it was so big to me. Or, my first win after coming back from a broken arm, I got a trophy, stuff like that. But I was stamps after a certain point.
Also, did you ever go stamps at Grands?
I don't think we could back in my day.
Oh.
You had to take the trophy. But it's funny because, and I know a lot of people are probably going to be like horrified at what I'm about to say, but when I moved like 8 years ago, my mom was like, hey, come get your trophies, or I'm throwing them away. And
sounds like something a mom would
say.
They're
just collecting dust in a room. And I was like, all right. And I never went and got them. I was 20 something, right? Like 22. I was like
Right.
busy. And she kept reminding me, hey, come get those trophies if you want them.
Right.
And I never went and got them. And so I came home one day and they were all just dumped in on my driveway. Like not destroyed, but just like, they drove them over and piled them all up in my driveway. And I had to go through and basically all the ones that I could donate back to the tracks, I donated back to the tracks because there wasn't like engraved the track or the name or whatever the year.
Right.
But the ones that I couldn't donate, I just threw them away. And so all the Grands trophies, I mean, I won the Grands like 5 times and I had to take them all to the dump.
Wow.
But here's the thing. I have an entire room full of trophies and stuff that I won as a professional. So what does the 13X, like I'm telling you, I'll say this, and I tell people this all the time.
Right.
When you're pro, nobody cares about 13X anymore.
Yeah.
When you're 13, it's the biggest deal to you right now because that's the biggest deal in your life, right? But once you're pro, everything you did as an amateur is completely wiped off the board. The other pros don't care how good you were as an amateur. The sponsors don't care how good you were as an amateur. You're starting from scratch with a blank slate. And so, I've got a room full of, I won 39 pro races at USA BMX. So that's 39 different trophies there. I won 8 World Cups. Like I've got hundreds of professional trophies up there. Why would I keep my 13X trophy?
True.
I kept my first one. I kept a couple really like meaningful ones, but like my 9 expert, Golden State National 3rd place trophy is long gone.
Right. Okay, that makes sense. So who are your current sponsors now?
So I'm a Chase guy for life. So I was actually there day one. I helped name the brand. So I will always be affiliated with Chase. So all the co-sponsors there, and as well as like I did every lap of my pro career in Fly with ODI Grip, with Tioga. I did my entire pro career with pretty much all of the same sponsors, which was really amazing. And then I still work with Monster as well, just on a brand ambassador deal, which is great. And then USA BMX, and I wouldn't consider them a sponsor, but they have been great about asking for feedback and how do they make the pro series better and how can they make their tracks better and how can they continue to elevate on their end. And so I've been helping with that, which has been great.
So you go day one with Chase. How did you come up with the name for the company then?
Well, there were 2 names that we were between, Chase and another one. And we all had to cast a vote on what we wanted. And it was 3-2 in favor of Chase. And nope, I can't tell you the other one.
I figured as much, like a prototype name, I guess.
Yeah, if they ever want to use it for something else, I don't want to say it.
Oh, that's cool. Okay. Well, that's it. That's all the questions I've got. You answered everything that I had. And thank you for your time. I don't want to keep you from whatever that you got to do. And
go to the gym. I took a year off of training. I needed a break, but now I'm loving it.
Definitely. So thank you, sir. And you have a great night.
Thanks. Have a good one.
You too. Bye.